After my wife went bankrupt, our family moved into a cramped rental house. To make ends meet, I worked 10 part-time jobs a day. The day before our daughter's birthday, she was still out with me in the bitter wind, delivering food. Her small oval face was flushed red from the cold. But after every successful delivery, she would ask me in her sweet childish voice, "Daddy, have we earned enough money to rent a car and take Mommy to see the sea?" Her birthday wish this year was to take her mother to eat cake at her favorite seaside spot. So, we planned to rent a car that day and surprise my wife, keeping it a secret from her. That evening luck was on my side, and I got a large order from a wealthy neighborhood. After delivering the expensive cake to its destination, I was shocked to find the person opening the door was my wife's younger brother, and inside my wife, dressed in a Hakaturi gown worth tens of thousands, was holding her old flame son and raising her glass high. "Welcome everyone to my godson's birthday banquet." Only then did I realize she had been pretending to be poor, deceiving me for 10 long years. The moment Jean Renu took the cake, our eyes met, and an indescribable awkwardness filled the air. "Brother-in-law, we were also invited." Before he could finish, I gripped my daughter's small hand tightly and turned away decisively. I opened my phone and pulled up the cake shop's page. The number staring back at me made my heart clench. The custom cake they had ordered cost a staggering 5-figure sum. My daughter looked up at me, her eyes filled with innocence and confusion. "Daddy, why is Mommy here? Did Mommy buy this cake? With her birthday just tomorrow?" Anticipation was written all over her face. Gazing into her clear eyes, an uncontrollable wave of bitterness washed over me. I knew without a doubt that the cake was theirs. Claire Delon had come from a prominent family. We were originally from 2 different worlds. However, fate played its hand. After her family went bankrupt, her old flame abandoned her and went abroad. Hit by the double blow of family ruin and romantic rejection, she chose me to ensure she wouldn't have to live a hard life. I worked 10 jobs a day, but I never imagined she could feign poverty before our very eyes. For a decade, looking at the layers of worn-out clothes on my daughter, my eyes instantly stung. Zhang Qinruai always used the excuse of subsidizing her younger brother-in-law, reluctant to buy our daughter even an extra winter uniform for kindergarten. Because of this, our daughter was often mocked by other children at school. Seeing my prolonged silence, my daughter seemed to understand something and pretended not to like the cake. "I don't like that cake. I just want a cheap one." Before she could finish, she started to sob, tears already streaming down her flushed cheeks. I patted her head, lifted her onto the motorbike, and we hastily departed. If only my daughter didn't have to be so understanding. Back home, I calculated the day's earnings, feeling a slight sense of relief. It wasn't bad. Tomorrow, I could take my daughter to buy a cake she liked. My daughter, who had been sulking, heard the door open and rushed forward to hug Jean Ting Rouge. But Jean Ting Rouge completely ignored her, walking straight to the bathroom to wash up and get ready for bed. A flicker of disappointment and awkwardness crossed my daughter's face. Still, she mustered her courage and asked timidly, "Mommy, can you come with us to pick out a cake tomorrow?" The sound of running water in the bathroom stopped abruptly, replaced by her cold reply, "We'll buy it in a couple of days." Normally, when refused, my daughter would fall silent, being the sensible child she was. But tomorrow was her birthday. She couldn't believe her mother would forget. She tried her best to remind her, "But we can go pick one out together tomorrow. Today, Daddy and I." Her words trailed off, her heart filled with confusion and hurt. How could Mommy forget her birthday? Mommy remembered other children's birthdays, remembered to buy cakes for them. Why did she forget only hers? My daughter desperately tried to control her emotions, not finishing her sentence. But Jean Tinger snapped at her. "Why are you so insistent on buying a cake?" Jean Tinger turned and saw her daughter, tears now streaming uncontrollably. She relented. My daughter ran happily towards me, buried her face in my chest, and secretly wiped away her tears. She whispered in my ear, "Tomorrow, Mommy and I will go get the cake, and Daddy, you go rent the car." But by the next day, Claire Delon seemed to have forgotten all about it. She left early in the morning and hadn't returned for half the day. I comforted our daughter, assuring her that her mother would buy the cake for an inn. Then I headed straight for the car rental agency. Stepping into the agency's underground garage, My gaze was instantly captured by a particular car. It was identical to the one Jean Tignalize had been in the night before. I froze for a moment, then mustered the courage to point at the car and ask the owner, roughly, how much would it cost to rent this model for a day? The owner glanced over and quickly waved his hands dismissively. Mr. Chun, that car belongs to some boss who's just parking it here temporarily. Our agency doesn't have such high-end vehicles. I walked closer to the car, the owner following closely behind me. Just a rough estimate. Before the words left my mouth, the car suddenly began to shake violently. I realized I might have stumbled upon someone's private moment, and my face burned with embarrassment. Just as I was about to pull the owner away, I recognized the entwined figures through the car window. It was my wife of 10 years, Claire Delon, and her old flame, Jean Shuren. Shame and anger washed over me like a tide, and I could barely breathe. I hastily told the owner, never mind a rental, clenched my fists and fled the garage. Back home, our daughter's expectant gaze felt like a knife, piercing my heart. I gritted my teeth and dialed the divorce lawyer. Hearing our conversation, my daughter asked in panic, Daddy, are you going to separate from Mommy? Though young, she had already grasped from my phone call that I intended to leave. Claire Delon, desperately suppressing my emotions, I knelt down and asked her, if we separate, who wouldn't choose? The moment I asked, I regretted it. I felt too cruel. Even if she was mature for her age, I shouldn't have been so direct. Hearing the question, she pressed her lips together lightly, trying to appear calm, but her trembling voice betrayed her. Daddy, don't you want me anymore? Onion doesn't want a cake, and I don't want you to rent the car either. My daughter was always so sensible it broke my heart. Faced with this situation, her first reaction was actually to think she was the reason I wanted to separate from Jiang Tingrue. I gently held her in my arms and said with difficulty, it's not your fault, but if you go with Mom, perhaps things will be better for you than with Dad. Hearing this, she could no longer hold back her emotions and began to sob softly in my arms. No, give Mom another chance, okay? I knew she was still hoping her mother would bring the cake home and that we could reconcile. I didn't want to spoil her mood again on her birthday, so I nodded in agreement. When evening came, Jean Tignalize returned home, but she only carried a set of clothes. She hadn't brought the cake our daughter wanted. Not only had she completely forgotten about it, but she also casually assigned me a task. For the next day, deliver this set of clothes to Wandu Building tomorrow. The delivery fee someone's paying isn't small. I picked up the clothes. The style was clearly Jean Shurenchance. I finally snapped, my voice so loud it startled even me. You were out all day, and this is all you brought back? She looked utterly bewildered, as if my anger was completely unprovoked. Are you crazy? Why are you yelling at me like that? I found you a gig, and now I'm wrong. I smiled bitterly, tears almost welling up. What about our daughter's cake? A flash of panic crossed Jean Tingrue's face before she walked into the bathroom and started washing her hands, using anger to mask the fact she'd forgotten. Why are you so hung up on this cake? Can't we just buy it in a few days? Our daughter, hearing us argue, suddenly rushed out of her room, eyes brimming with tears. Daddy, Mommy, don't fight. I don't want this birthday anymore. Jean Tignalize froze on the spot upon hearing her daughter's words. She finally realized her daughter's insistence on cake these past 2 days was because today was her birthday. A flicker of panic crossed her face, and she quickly comforted her daughter, promising to buy her a cake tomorrow without fail, to properly make up for her birthday. Seeing her daughter happily embrace her, I didn't press the issue further. The next day, after delivering the clothes to the Zhuanju Building, as promised, the boss who gives me part-time jobs suddenly sent a message. A client specifically requested you to wash his car, saying you're meticulous and do good work. I felt a surge of gratitude. This boss had always helped me out when I needed it most. He was a decent man too. Seeing I was hardworking, he was willing to recommend me for any job. Following the location the boss provided, I arrived at the parking spot and took out my tools, ready to wash the car. Unexpectedly at that moment, Claire Delon and her unforgettable past love, Jean Shuren, got out of the car. Jian Tingrue's expression suddenly showed a trace of awkwardness as she stood there, radiant and glamorous beside Zhang Shuren, while I, in my ragged clothes drenched in sweat, looked utterly out of place. Yet I didn't feel ashamed. Instead, I felt a touch of joy. because I saw a very beautiful cake. Resting on the back seat of the car, Jean Surin glanced at me and stated his requirements for washing the car. My car's paint is expensive. Be as careful as possible when you wash it. I bowed repeatedly in agreement and began taking out my tools, preparing to start washing from the front. Just then Jean Tinger stopped me, gazing tenderly at young Surin. I gave him his car before I went bankrupt. He treasures it, so don't scratch or bump it hearing this. Lucas Moreau smiled faintly and tightened his arm around her waist. I nodded solemnly, but noticed an inexplicable disdain in Lucas Moreau's eyes. As he looked at me, he clearly knew who I was and had deliberately summoned me here, simply to humiliate me. Watching them, looking so well matched, I felt utterly defeated. I opened the car door to clean the interior, but I accidentally sprayed a little CLE Lilig fluid onto the cake box. Seeing this, Claire Delon flew into a rage, pointing at my face and unleashing a torrent of abuse. Are you insane? Don't you know this is food? If it weren't for the child, I would have left you long ago. Hearing her berate me, Lucas Moreau dragged me straight out of the car and threw me onto the ground. You can't even handle this simple task. Get lost, don't let me see you again. Passers-by cast pitying glances my way, but I paid them no mind. Brushing the dust off myself, I dragged my weary body home. Seeing my condition, my daughter understood I had been bullied outside. She gently stroked the cuts on my cheek with her soft little hands, repeatedly asking if it hurt. Following her touch, I realized I had several cuts on my face, but I ignored the pain, eager to share the good news with her. Mommy bought you a super beautiful cake. Daddy saw today, but my daughter wasn't concerned about the cake. She looked at me worriedly. Daddy, did someone bully you? You're bleeding. I scratched my head, forcing back the stinging tears, and comforted her with a foolish grin. I just fell off my bike on the way back, it's nothing. My daughter immediately got up, fetched some bandages, and carefully applied them to my cuts. As she applied them, she blew gently, saying, blow, blow. Make the wee fly away. Suddenly the door creaked open. Jaunting Rouet was back. I excitedly craned my neck to look, and my daughter rubbed her hands together gleefully, anticipating the cake she longed for. Claire Delon walked through the door empty-handed. My daughter and I stood frozen, our hearts sinking with disappointment. I turned to look at my daughter and saw her mouth twist slightly. The hope in her eyes had turned to disappointment, but she seemed accustomed to it, not as upset as she had been on her actual birthday. Seeing her like this, my heart felt like a knife twisting inside. She might have completely lost faith in her mother. Furious, I assumed, Jaunting Rouet had simply forgotten the cake in the car. Just as I was about to demand an explanation, she pulled me into the bathroom. Let me see if you're hurt. It looked like you landed right on your face today. She reached out, intending to peel off the bandage her daughter had put on me. I pushed her hand away and asked coldly, where's the cake? The cake? I couldn't stop myself from shouting at her. The cake you promised our daughter you buy her today. I saw in the car. Only then did she realize she had broken her promise. Again, utterly disappointed, I walked straight into the kitchen to start making dinner. During the meal, the whole family ate in silence. She tried to curry favor, placing food onto my plate and our daughter's. I did buy the cake, but something came up on the way. I'll get you another one tomorrow. Our daughter immediately brightened up, asking tentatively, I happen to have plans with a few friends tomorrow. Could they come over to our house to celebrate my birthday? Jean Tinger stared absently at our daughter's cautious demeanor, thinking of how carefree Noah was. A pang of bitterness rose in her heart. How had she raised her own daughter to be so timid? A wave of guilt washed over her. She stroked our daughter's head, invite them all happily. Our daughter took me out to buy fruit and snacks. She even paid with the allowance money she had saved up bit by bit. The next day, she pulled me out of bed early to welcome her friends. Before long, many parents arrived with their children. Everyone mingled harmoniously, but the cake Jean Ting Rouge had promised never arrived. Our daughter started to get anxious, fiddling nervously with her hands. My breathing grew shallow. I silently prayed that Jean Tignalise wouldn't let our daughter down again. By the time everyone had eaten their fill and was ready to wish our daughter a happy birthday, Jean Tignalise still hadn't answered my calls. Seeing the embarrassed, pleading look in my daughter's eyes, I asked another parent to help lead the birthday celebration, while I went straight to Lucas Moreau's house to find her. Before I even reached the gate, I saw her from afar. Claire Delon, strolling with her godson cradled lovingly in her arms. Her face was filled with such affection, as if that child were her own flesh and blood. I couldn't help but think of our daughter, whose own mother didn't even care about her belated birthday celebration. I was just about to go over and confront her. Unexpectedly, Lucas Moreau appeared with security guards and had me forcibly removed from the residential complex. He looked down his nose at me, contemptuously, ordering the guards to dump me at the entrance like trash. Get Jean Ting Rouge out here. What's happening today is very important. Lucas Moreau walked straight up and punched me, saying smugly, what could possibly be important? In that broken home of yours, Ting Rui. And Tun Tun's bond is growing stronger. Don't disturb them. Growing stronger, what a joke. Suddenly, I remembered our daughter neglected back at home. I ran back home like a madman. Unin's birthday song was already missing. Her mother's voice. It couldn't lack mine as well, paying no mind to the sweat soaking through my clothes. I rushed home, only to be met with a scene that filled me with immense guilt. My daughter, who should have been happy, was crying with her head bowed. The other children were asking unhappily, "Are you a liar? Your family can't even afford a cake." Seeing me arrive, the parents quickly apologized and left one after another with their children. My daughter sobbed in my arms. She understood. Jean Tignalise had broken her promise yet again. Curled up small in my embrace, she whispered weakly, "Daddy, I don't want mommy anymore." I instructed my lawyer to handle the divorce proceedings. And that very night, I took an inn and boarded a plane to another city. Jean Tinger walked along the street, browsing cake shops one by one, but felt that the ready-made styles lacked the sophisticated elegance of a custom order. After a moment's hesitation, she called Lucas Moreau. "Could your friend's custom cake shop rush an order?" Within 2 hours. She'd thought long and hard before giving this time frame. It should be enough time to pick up the cake and go straight home to surprise an inn. There was a hint of panic in Claire Delon's voice. She couldn't break her promise this time. After all, Lily had already invited many little friends over to celebrate. Lucas Moreau paused for a second, then said nonchalantly, "Sure. Why don't you come over to my place for dinner first? Taodong said he misses you. Finish eating, and the cake can be conveniently delivered right here." Hearing this, the worry weighing on Jean Tingrue's heart finally lifted. After agreeing, she quickly picked out a birthday gift for Inan and hurried to Lucas Moreau's home. From a distance, she saw Noah and Lucas Moreau waiting at the door to greet her. The moment Noah spotted the gift in her hand, he jumped up excitedly. "Godmother bought me another designer toy figurine. You always guess exactly what I like." Noah grinned so widely his eyes narrowed into slits. Just as Claire Delon was about to explain it was for Inan, Lucas Moreau had already taken a gift. "The whole wall is covered with the designer toys you bought him. Noah treasures them." Jean Tingru stared at the wall full of gifts, momentarily lost in thought. She suddenly realized she seemed to have never bought and in any gifts, nor did she even know what her daughter liked. At the dinner table, Claire Delon was preoccupied, constantly glancing down at the time. As soon as the cake arrived, she immediately stood up, ready to leave. Seeing this, Jean Shuren promptly said to Noah, "Have Godmother help you with your craft for a bit." Noah instantly understood, grabbing Claire Delon's hand and looking at her with pleading eyes. "Godmother, the teacher wants me and Mom to do crafts together. Can you teach me first, please?" Jean Terra was momentarily flustered, only managing to gently stroke his head and coax him softly. "Godmother will come over tomorrow to do it with you. I have something important today." Tun Tun's eyes instantly reddened, and he clung tightly to her hand, refusing to let go. Jean Tingrue couldn't bear to refuse him outright and cast a pleading look towards Jean Shuren, but he merely offered a helpless shrug. Claire Delon sighed, reaching for her phone to send Shun Xinjiang a message. But her phone was gone. She searched frantically, only to look up and see Lucas Moreau watching her nonchalantly. Their eyes met, and understanding dawned on her. She reached directly into Zheng Shuren's bag and pulled out her phone. She shook off Noah's hand, grabbed the cake, and walked out. Claire Delon had always poured her heart into caring for Noah, giving him motherly love, companionship, and even money, yet Jean Shuren and Tun Tun never felt it was enough. They always wanted more. Meanwhile, her own daughter Lily was often neglected by her, even when Lily needed something. If it wasn't met, she wouldn't ask again, never making a fuss or causing trouble. Only at this moment did Jean Tingrue realize how selfish she had been. She had given all her love to others, yet expected her own child not to be demanding. A knot of frustration tightened in her chest. She unlocked her phone, intending to call in and soothe her. However, what greeted her eyes were numerous missed calls and a divorce agreement sent by Chun Sheng, John's lawyer. For the first time, the words divorce agreement struck her as incredibly jarring. A sudden ominous feeling washed over her. After getting out of the car, she was in such a panic that she almost forgot the cake. She looked up at her darkened home and asked the security guard with a trembling voice, "Weren't they celebrating a birthday in that apartment? Why are the lights off?" The security guard glanced at the cake in her hand. Speechless, everyone left, because his family couldn't even afford a cake. Before Claire Delon could speak, the guard recognized her. "You're the mother from that family, aren't you? Dressed like this. I almost didn't recognize you." The guard looked at Claire Delon, a hint of sympathy in his voice. "Seeing you like this, rent shouldn't be an issue. Right. So why are the child and her father moving out in the dead of winter?" Jean Tingrue felt a sudden wave of suffocation. She finally understood. This time they were truly disappointed in her. She had meant to tell them the truth. But the moment Jean Charon returned, she had been swept away by the love she had never received before. She had promised Zheng Shuren that even if she married, her heart would always belong to him, even after Zheng Shuren married someone else. Due to his family's declining fortunes, she could never let go. For 10 years, she had forced Qin Xian John to work himself to the bone, to subsidize her own family, never even caring about his health. Even her family, unable to endure the hardships, after their own bankruptcy, constantly demanded things from Xian John, until it became an entitled habit. A wave of horror washed over John Tingrue. As her brother, John Reynu's words suddenly echoed in her mind. "As long as you ask brother-in-law for money, he'll work himself to death to earn it." At this moment, those words felt like a thorn stabbing deep in her heart. She rushed violently into the darkened rental house, only to find no trace of her daughter or husband inside. Her heart plummeted. With trembling hands, she flicked on the light. The room was utterly silent. The door to her husband and daughter's room was slightly ajar, but she lacked the courage to step inside. She was terrified the guard was right. Terrified that pushing the door open would reveal nothing but an empty room. She tried calling her daughter's name a few times, but the familiar childlike response never came. At that moment, she finally realized they had truly left. She sat stunned on the cold floor, tears spilling uncontrollably from her eyes. Just then her phone vibrated. Her heart leaped, thinking it was Chun Sheng John calling back. She hastily picked it up, only to see the caller ID was her brother. "Sis, what's up with Chen Xinjiang? Usually when I text him for money, he sends it within a day. Why is it so slow this time? Tell him to pick up more jobs." Claire Delon remained silent, unsure how to explain the current situation. On the other end, her mother chimed in. "Marrying you was the luckiest thing that ever happened to him. He should be torningly grateful. My mahjong money is almost gone. Tell him to send the funds quickly." The clatter of mahjong tiles could be heard from her mother's side. Yet her vicious remarks about Chun Xian John didn't cease. "Working 10 jobs a day really brings in money. Huh? Sending us huge sums every time. Though it's still a bit short for our family. If he can't cough it up, just make him work more jobs. It's not my money anyway. I don't care if I win or lose." Listening to these words, Jean Tingrue felt a sharp pang in her heart. Only now did she realize that Chunqing John worked so many jobs, yet their daughter still wasn't properly fed or clothed, all because of these endless demands. And she herself had never paid attention to any of it. Content, only to immerse herself in a facade of maternal warmth. With Noah, lost in false tenderness, unwilling to hear her family slander Chun Xinjiang any further, she hastily hung up the phone. She finally understood. She wasn't just an accomplice, condoning her family's behavior. She was the one who had hurt David Miller, and unknowingly most, as the full weight of the decade-long exploitation she and her family had inflicted upon Chun Xian John and his daughter dawned on her. She couldn't stop trembling. They had really left, driven away by her own indifferent attitude. She picked up the divorce agreement from the table, watching Chien Hong Jin's forceful signature, until the sky began to lighten. Her phone vibrated again. Claire Delon answered with a vacant gaze, remaining silent for a long time. From the other end came Zheng Shuren's unconcealed joy. Ting Rui, Noah rearranged the ornaments you bought him. He wants you to come over and see how it looks. A wave of irritation washed over Jean Ting Rui, and she replied coldly, I don't want to. Zheng Shuren instantly sensed something was amiss, and prompted Noah to speak. Godmother, do you not like Noah anymore? Noah, hearing no reply from the other, and began to sob. Jean Ting Rui suddenly found Noah grating. Why couldn't he be well behaved? Like an inn. She had already spent far too much time on this. Father and son. Yet why were they still not satisfied? When she gave Noah and Lucas Moreau designer clothes, she would always remember the chapped faces and hands of Chun Hang Jean, and uninfinito cold. When she gave Noah a custom-made cake, she would always remember that Lily had never even had a single bite of her own birthday cake. She felt increasingly sorry for the father and daughter. But by the time she realized all this, it was too late. She had already lost Chung Hang Jean and Lily. A voice inside told her she didn't love Jung Shuren. It was merely because she had never had him. Her feelings for Jung Shuren were just an obsession, a fixation from the past she wanted to fulfill. The ones she truly loved were Chan Hang Jean, who had shared hardships with her daily, and Lily, who waited for her to come home every day, seeing her family members still cluelessly sending messages, urging Chun Hang Jean to transfer money. Jiang Ting Rui felt a surge of fury. She rushed home panting, demanding her family find the records of Chun Hong Jin's remittances. Her mother, busy playing mahjong, waved her hand dismissively, telling Jian Renyu to show her. Jean Renyu pulled out the transfer records. Each transfer amount was just numerous, small sums of 1 or 200 yuan. Yet perplexingly, every single transfer from Chun Hang Jean included amounts down to the cents. Jiang Ting Rui could no longer hold back. Tears burst from her eyes. She wasn't crying for herself, but felt heartbroken for Chun Hang Jean. She couldn't imagine how much humiliation Chun Hang Jean must have endured each time he made a transfer. To have to work odd jobs nonstop, under such circumstances, just to provide pocket money for her family. Looking at her mother, who treated money carelessly at the mahjong table, and her brother frantically topping up game credits, she completely broke down. Stop playing, she roared. She smashed her brother's phone and overturned her mother's mahjong table. Then she stormed out the door and found the boss, who had previously introduced odd jobs to Chun Hangjian. The boss looked at her, puzzled, assuming she was another wealthy madam looking for cheap labor. Before he could speak, he heard Claire Delon asking about Chun Hangjian. Has that man Chun Hangjin come looking for work again? Hearing this, the boss's expression darkened. A while ago, a Mr. Zhang came again, told him to wash his car, and gave him a hard time. Seeing the boss hesitate, Claire Delon's heart tightened. She immediately pulled out a wad of cash and handed it to him. How did he give him a hard time? Seeing her sincerity, the boss waved his hand, refusing the money. Inside, he found provocative lingerie in Mr. Zhang's car and got into a big fight with Mr. Zhang. That gentleman demanded he pay hundreds of thousands in compensation. Her mind buzzed as if struck by lightning. She suddenly remembered seeing liniment for bruises and sprains at home once, but she hadn't paid any attention at the time. She abruptly stood up and rushed home. Just as she reached her doorstep, a delivery man was standing there. Are you David Miller's family? Please sign for this package. Without waiting for a reply, he turned and left. Jiang Ting Rui, exhausted in body and mind, ignored the package and began frantically searching the house for evidence of Chun Xian John's injury. However, everything related to him had been taken away. She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing helplessly, reflecting on how many details she had overlooked. Just then, her foot accidentally bumped the delivery box. Winter clothes printed with her daughter's name spilled out. Jean Ting Rui was instantly bewildered and emptied the box's contents. Inside there was also a note. It Onion's dad, this is a gift from all the classmates. Fernan, it's so cold in winter. Please don't let her wear the summer uniform anymore. If you have any difficulties, please let us know anytime. What did this mean? And then wore her summer uniform to kindergarten. Every day thinking of how others might have mocked her. Jean Tignalize felt a sting in her nose. My God, how could she not even realize her daughter didn't have a winter uniform, solely because of her own obsessions? She had failed the family who truly loved and cherished her. She picked up Lily's clothes and held them, sobbing bitterly. But Lily would never wipe away her tears again. Lily and I settled down in a tourist city. The money I earn here allows us to rent a very nice house, and it has her own balcony, her own wardrobe. I bought her many clothes. Spring, summer, autumn, winter, all provided for. I also bought her several of the little dresses she likes. I still have the habit of taking on many jobs a day, so I can't always be with her. But I enrolled her in an after-school meal program. When she comes home, she often tells me the food there is delicious, and the other children there are very nice. Apart from the first month when she was still adjusting, and then quickly blended in with the neighborhood kids. Life in a tourist city isn't as fast-paced as in a big city. We learn to slow down too. On weekends, I often take her out sketching, sightseeing. While strolling through the night market, she saw a pitiful little hamster. Her eyes filled with sympathy. I knew what she was thinking and bought it for her. Without a second thought, the initially skinny hamster has become quite plump. Under her care, many children often come play with Lily because of the hamster, but they never ask about Lily's mother. It seems that without Claire Delon, our lives are more comfortable and peaceful. I urged the lawyer to get Claire Delon to sign the divorce papers as soon as possible. I want nothing more to do with her. As for how privileged or capable she is, that has long been irrelevant to my daughter and me. Daddy, please don't work so many odd jobs anymore. And it doesn't need that much money. I just want you to spend more time with me. Unin's words were a complete wake-up call. Yes, no one is pressing me for money anymore. I no longer need to slave away for someone else's greed. I just need to focus on being with my daughter. Claire Delon had spent the past few days lost in a haze, as if her soul had departed. Her mother and brother still hadn't realized Chun Xingjian was gone, constantly pressing her to have him send money. Impatiently, she transferred several sums to them in his name. Then each day, she shut herself away in the rented room, where they had once lived, until one day a man pushed open the door. Jean Tignalize thought Chun Xingjian had returned, and excitedly threw herself into his arms. Seeing her like this, Lucas Moreau assumed she had forgiven him. He quickly signaled to Tang Tang to give her the cake she liked. Just as Tang Tang was about to speak, Claire Delon realized the man before her wasn't Chin Xingjian because he never wore cologne. He only ever carried the faint scent of soap. She forcefully shoved Lucas Moreau away. Lucas Moreau looked bewildered. Tingrui, why did you push me away? Tun Tun, and I came to see you. Jean Tingrue's eyes were vacant, as she shook her head repeatedly. Just go, both of you. I don't want to see you. Tun Tun offered her the cake. Godmother, I brought you your favorite cake. Seeing the cake, Claire Delon instantly broke down. That was the cake Lily had always wanted, but never received. Losing control, she knocked the cake to the floor, the beautiful dessert instantly becoming a messy heap. I don't want it. Take it away, both of you, just go. She pointed at the door, hysterically trying to drive Lucas Moreau and Taodong away. Lucas Moreau suddenly raised his voice, his tone laced with disdain. Isn't he just some pathetic clown? So I rough him up a bit. But do you really need to? Before he could finish, Zhang Tingrui's hand struck his face hard. Her voice trembled with anger and pain. Just rough him up a bit. You used his job to humiliate him, and then you beat him up. Lucas Moreau pointed indignantly at his own face. He hit me too, Tingrui. Look at my face. Claire Delon glanced at the faint scratches on his face, but the image that flooded her mind was of the severe injuries on Chun Xingjian's face. Just then Noah, frightened by their argument, burst into tears. But Claire Delon only felt irritation. She threw on her coat and rushed out the door. The cold night wind blew against her face, but couldn't dispel her chaotic thoughts. Suddenly, someone called her, telling her they had Fallon's whereabouts. She immediately pulled herself together, frantically booked a plane ticket, and rushed to the city where they were. Lily had recently suggested I relax, taking me and the little hamster out for a picnic. I took her to the bakery and let her pick out several small cakes, in style she liked. In front of all the other children, she declared boldly for the first time, Help yourselves. If it's not enough, my daddy will buy me lots more cake. Seeing her confident demeanor now, I felt deeply gratified. The timidity and low self-esteem that once marked her face had vanished, replaced by an abundance of happiness and joy. It was at this moment that Jean Tignalise appeared before us. She watched from afar as the daughter, who was once timid, now stood confident and bold. Yet somehow she couldn't bring herself to approach. She stood there like an outsider, utterly out of place. Amidst this happiness, seeing her, I took the initiative and walked toward her. Have you signed the divorce papers? Hearing my words, Jean Tignalise felt a sting in her nose and instantly burst into incoherent tears. I'm sorry to you, Indinine. I looked at her coldly. She certainly had wronged us, but I wouldn't accept her apology either. I don't need your apology, nor do I have any designs on your assets. I only wanted in. Jean Tignalise shook her head. I can help you live a better life, could we perhaps? Before she could finish, I interrupted her. No, this is non-negotiable. If you're unwilling to sign, then I'll proceed directly with legal action. Her eyes widened as she stared at me in disbelief, her voice unconsciously rising. Chen Shengjian, I already know I was wrong. You still want to divorce me? An encampment without her mother. I gave a cold laugh. A mother like that is useless anyway. While Jean Tignalise was on the plane, countless possibilities ran through her mind. She imagined herself lowering her head in apology, that I would soften, that I would give her another chance. The one thing she hadn't considered was that when she truly lowered her proud head and pleaded desperately, I remained utterly unmoved. Seeing my stern, impartial demeanor, she began to panic. Shengjian, I'll be a good mother to an end from now on. I beg you, don't let this family fall apart. While I didn't respond, she knelt directly before me and continued her apologies. I shouldn't have contacted Yung Shuren. Behind your backs, I shouldn't have treated our daughter differently, neglecting her wishes. And I especially shouldn't have let you work multiple jobs to subsidize my family. You can hit me. You can curse me, just don't disappear with an end. Her voice grew softer and softer until she was nearly choked with sobs. I thought hearing her confession might stir some leniency within me, but I was wrong. Instead, my heart was as still as water. If her future atonement alone could erase the pain within and in me, then we would truly be selling ourselves short. And then, not far off, saw someone kneeling before me and ran over worriedly. Daddy, is someone bullying you again? Before she could finish, she recognized Jean Tingrue. She instantly hid behind me, bewildered, unsure how to face her mother. Seeing the previously confident and poised Annan suddenly become timid and hesitant before her, Jean Tingrue felt a sharp pang in her heart. She realized she hadn't fulfilled the true responsibilities of a mother. Trembling, she reached out to Lily, her voice pleading. It's Mommy, Lily. You've gotten chubbier. Come, let Mommy see. When Lily didn't speak, she suddenly took a small cake from her bag. Mommy bought you a cake. Although this one's a bit small, I'll take you to buy a big one later. Okay. And then looked to me for help. Shaking her head, I gestured for her to tell her mother her own thoughts. Mommy, Daddy already bought me lots of them. I can't eat anymore. You don't need to waste money on me. Jean Tingrue scrambled to her feet, her tone urgent. It's okay. If you can't eat it now, Mommy will buy you more later. Mommy has money now. I can buy you anything you want. Benin gripped my hand tightly, her voice childish yet firm. But Mommy used to buy things for other children. Benin doesn't need Mommy now. If other children need a mommy, then Mommy should go find them. My daughter looked up, meeting my gaze, her previously sad face brightening with a sunny smile. Daddy can give me everything. I just want to be with Daddy. With that, and then pull me away. Watching her small yet determined back, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. It seemed I had raised her quite well on my own. After all, from that day on, Jean Tignalise settled down in the city. Every day, she went to the after-school meal program to bring in an extra food. Everyone praised Inan for having such a good mother. When Inan took her hamster out to play with other children, on weekends, she would help watch over it. To curry favor with Inan, she bought a series of cages and treats for the hamster. I felt rather helpless about this. She was, after all, Lily's biological mother. I couldn't just drive her away. But Lily wasn't as warm towards her as before, remaining polite yet distant. I knew my daughter had been truly heartbroken back then. After all, for any child, Having their birthday turn into a day of sorrow would be something hard to ever let go of. Jian Tingrui also knew the harm she had caused Lily, went far beyond just not buying her that cake. So she tried hard to reconcile with Lily. For any parent-child activities at kindergarten, she always rushed to participate before I could. However, this also gave me more time to earn money. I did some calculations. Since I stopped sending money to the Zhang family in the past year, the money I earned from odd jobs was enough to buy a villa. In this small tour city, I needed to work even harder to give Nina an even better life with me. As time went by, their mother-daughter relationship couldn't be said to be the same as before, but Lily wasn't as resistant towards her as she had been initially. I didn't want Lily to grow up lacking a mother figure either, so I turned a blind eye. But there was absolutely no way I could wrong myself by getting back together with Jean Tinc Rouge.